Hello, my dear students, and a very warm welcome back. I know your exams are just around the corner, and you're all studying so hard. So today, we are going to tackle a super important chapter. The story of how India's economy got a complete makeover back in 1991. It's like a real-life blockbuster movie, and I promise you, by the end of this, it'll all make perfect sense.
So, what's our plan for today? First, we'll see the massive problem India was in. Then, we'll uncover the secret LPG formula that saved the day. We'll break down those big words, liberalization, privatization, and globalization, into simple ideas. And at the end, we'll give the reforms a final report card. Stick with me, and this chapter will be a piece of cake for your exams.
Okay, let's get right into it. I want you to travel back in time with me all the way to 1991. The situation for our economy was, well, it was really serious. You could say it was like a patient in the ICU. And we have to understand the problem properly before we can really appreciate the solution, right?
Can you even imagine this? Just 15 days. That's it. Our country's wallet was almost completely empty. Think about it like this. What if your family was told you only had enough money for rations for the next 2 weeks? It's a scary thought, isn't it? Well, that was the exact kind of crisis our entire country was facing.
And this number tells the whole story. $6 billion US. That was all the money we had in our country's piggy bank, what we call our foreign exchange reserves. Now, why is this so important? Because we need this foreign money, mostly dollars, to buy essential things from other countries, especially petrol for our cars and bikes. And $6 billion was so low, it would barely last for those 15 days we just talked about.
Now, this is a very, very important question. It's a favorite in exams, so listen carefully. How did a huge country like India get into such a mess? What went wrong? Let's break down the reasons one by one.
You see, it wasn't just one thing. First, the government was spending way more than it was earning from taxes. It's just like if you keep spending more than your pocket money. Second, the prices of everyday things like vegetables and milk were shooting up. We were also buying a lot more from other countries than we were selling to them. And because of all this, we were struggling to pay back our old loans. And you know what happens then. Nobody wanted to lend us any more money. We were completely stuck.
But you know what they say? Every big problem has a solution. And India's government came up with a master plan, a true rescue mission, which we now call the New Economic Policy, or NEP. And this, my friends, was the big turning point in our country's story. So, with no other options left, India went to the world's biggest banks, the World Bank and the IMF, and asked for help. We got a big loan, $7 billion. But there was a catch. This loan came with some conditions. It was a bit like your parents agreeing to give you extra pocket money, but only if you promised to clean your room and study harder. India had to promise it would change its economic rules.
And these were the three big promises, the three main pillars of the new economic policy. And there's a super easy way to remember them. Just think of your kitchen gas cylinder, LPG. L for liberalization, P for privatization, and G for globalization. Easy, right? Now let's see what each of these really means.
Let's start with the L in our LPG formula, liberalization. The best way to think about it is, well, unlocking the economy, getting rid of all the old rusty locks that were holding our businesses back. And for your exams, here's the perfect definition you can write. Liberalization simply means removing all the unnecessary rules and government controls that were stopping our industries from growing. It was all about giving them more freedom to make their own decisions. Before 1991, we had something called the license Raj. Raj means rule, so it was the rule of the license. Imagine having very, very strict parents who decide everything for you. What to wear, when to study, who to meet. That's what it was like for companies. They needed a government license for almost everything. But after liberalization, it was like the parents started to trust their children more. Most of these licenses were just removed.
Okay, we've covered the L. Now for the P and the G of our LPG formula. These two policies completely changed who was playing in India's economic game and, opened our doors to the whole world. So what is privatization? It's really simple. It means selling companies that were owned by the government to private businessmen. The idea was that private companies could probably run them better and make more profit. And one way to do this is through disinvestment. Think of a government company as a whole pizza. The government might sell a few slices of that pizza to the public. That selling of slices, that's disinvestment.
Now this is a fun little fact. To encourage its own companies to do better, the government gave a special status to the best ones. Just like the great Emperor Akbar had his Navratnas, or 9 jewels, in his court? Well, the government named its top companies Navratnas, Maharatnas, and Miniratnas. It was a way of telling them, you are our jewels, you have more freedom to grow.
And finally, we have G for globalization. Globalization just means connecting India's economy with the world's economy. And the most visible, most famous result of this for us in India was outsourcing. I'm sure you've all heard of call centers, right? That is a perfect everyday example of globalization in action. It completely changed our cities.
So why did all these big companies in America and Europe choose India? Well, we had 2 huge advantages. First, our salaries were much lower than in their countries. And second, we had a massive number of young, talented people who could speak English very well. Combine that with the boom in information technology, and boom, it created lots and lots of jobs, and is the reason why cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Pune became the huge IT hubs that they are today.
So, after all these huge, massive changes, how did India do? It's time to look at the final report card for the 1991 reforms. Just like in school, let's see where we got an A+ and which subjects needed a little more improvement.
Well, the results were pretty amazing. Just look at these numbers. The total economic growth, our GDP, jumped from an average of 5.6% to a fantastic 8.2%. Now look closer. Which sector was the star student? That's right, the services sector. It rocketed from 6.7 to a whopping 10%. This was a huge success.
And hey, remember that tiny, dangerously low piggy bank of just $6 billion we started with? Well, look at it now. By 2018, our foreign reserves had grown to over $400 billion. Our piggy bank was not just full, it was overflowing. This showed just how much stronger and more stable our economy had become. No more 15-day worries.
But, no report card is ever perfect. While the economy grew very fast, it didn't create enough jobs for everyone. Our farmers also faced some really tough times because government support for agriculture was reduced. And our own small Indian industries, they really struggled to compete with all the cheaper goods coming from other countries. Some people also said that the government sold its companies for too low a price during disinvestment.
So, my dear students, this is the big question I want to leave you with. The 1991 reforms definitely rescued India from a huge crisis and made our economy much bigger. But did the benefits of this growth reach every single person in our country equally? As you study for your exams, remember to have this balanced view. The reforms are a story of incredible success, but also a story with challenges that we are still trying to solve today. Keep studying hard, you're all going to do great, and I'll see you in the next explainer. All the best!